For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another Live and Amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are here live with Retro Valley. I'm in Waco, Texas. They are all the way out in New Zealand, 17 hours ahead of me. How's it going today, guys?
Yeah, good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, going well.
Doing pretty good. So how did the band come together?
I guess it kind of started off a little while ago. Mitch, our drummer, and David, our guitarist, kind of just hanging out and, just jamming along for a while. And I think after a little while, David asked me to, if I was still singing and whatnot, since we all met in high school. And then I came over for a jam, and yeah, I guess some magic started to happen. And we, after a little bit, brought Ethan and Josh in. And yeah, but since then, the rest has been history, man.
Awesome. Before we get too deep into the podcast, let's have everybody kind of introduce themselves, and so people have a name with the voice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so my name's Mitch, and I'm the drummer.
I am Ethan. I'm the lead guitarist.
And I'm Ben, the lead vocalist.
The other two are not here at the moment.
Okay. Would they be joining us possibly, or just
Possibly soon. They may be
okay.
stuck in traffic. I'm
Yeah.
not sure yet.
Okay, perfect. So we'll kind of jump between asking questions that pertain to the group, and then we'll ask questions that pertain to individuals. So we'll kind of jump in between.
Sweet.
What got each of you into music?
Ooh, good question. Yeah.
I think for me, just always growing up, ever since a young fella, there's always like instruments around, family, friends and stuff. Always, sort of twinkle away. And I suppose it just sort of developed from there. And as I got older, just sort of started meeting different people, just started playing more. And yeah, just try to live it now, really.
Yeah. I basically got into music through just growing up around it. My dad was a bassist, and he was in bands growing up and doing all sorts of stuff and touring around. And I always thought that was really cool. He always was playing music on the radio and things and on the stereo. I always had music around me growing up. So for me, it was kind of like inevitable to get into it because I was that obsessed. I think I got the obsession passed down to me by my dad. And from there, it was like, I want to learn guitar. Guitar's awesome. Remember my mum sitting me down going, you're going to learn the piano. Learn the piano. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I want to shred. I want to make loud, distorted noises. It's fun. And I ended up picking that. And then they found me a guitar teacher, and I got right into it after then. But yeah, it's good.
Nice.
I guess for me, music was always in the family. Both mum and dad were in bands ever since they were, in high school. And they've just been doing it their whole lives, really. They were very dedicated and in love with music. And I guess I kind of picked up on singing through my mum. And then she'd make me do a bunch of the singing comps at schools and stuff. And yeah. Oh, well, twisted my arm.
Yeah.
ever so slightly. And then eventually, I think it felt like it took me too long to finally jump into a band. But now that I am, it just feels quite right,
Yeah, understood completely. And then who as a collective, who do you draw influence from for the band?
I think all of us have got sort of different tastes, but all come from a rock background. I mean, for me, I'm right into like my Foo Fighters and stuff like that. And then grew up with like the classics, Dire Straits and Guns N' Roses and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then more modernly, sort of person I've been getting into bands more like Ocean Alley and artists like Matt Corby and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool.
What about you guys?
Yeah, definitely probably rock influences. I have a lot of punk installed into my brain thanks to my father, as he was right up into it.
Nice.
Just lots of guitar riffs and lots of fast-paced stuff. And then, it just got me interested with sounds. And then over the years of me developing on myself as a musician, I've come to realize that there's so much different flavors of music that I could explore, and I find it fascinating, different sounds. So it's come from a rock background, but it's almost developed into what can I make my instrument do, and what sort of sounds can we create, and what sort of sounds do I like. And it's about finding different stuff, but also finding that balance of if I like that or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I guess for me, growing up, my parents both had very different tastes in music, whereas mum loved her classical jazz, so there'd be a lot of Frank Sinatra around the house. And then when I was hanging out with Dad, it was more, the classic rock and roll. Got me right into like Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and all that. But then I guess myself discovering a lot of other bands as well, more modern ones. I guess I got quite obsessed with bands like Panic at the Disco and the 1975 and a bit of Kings of Leon as well.
Hey, howdy, boys.
Hi. Good.
We have more people joining the party.
I know.
Yeah, just passing through. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So what do you guys, when you guys aren't playing music, what do you do for fun?
We kick around a rainbow ball.
That's good. Keepy uppies.
We each band practice we try and best our last score of keepy uppies
Okay.
with just the worst ball you can ever buy, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the ultimate goal with the, because you guys, how long have you guys been together?
Only just on like
9 months.
Yeah, like just over 6 months. So
Yeah.
it was
Okay.
pretty recent. But I guess overall goal would probably be try branch out over into a couple more countries. Maybe try get into some festivals over there.
Be ideal to wedge ourselves into the festival scene.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
I think all of us, have the classic dream of wanting to be a rock star. But
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah, but yeah,
Real push.
I don't know, just sort of taking it as it comes and just enjoying it, really.
Yeah,
And seeing
definitely.
what happens.
Gotcha. And what's the independent scene like in New Zealand? Where specifically in New Zealand are you?
We're in Hamilton, New Zealand, so it's about an hour away from the biggest city, which is only 1 million people. So the New Zealand music scene's it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
To say the least. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it's like any country. You sort of got mainstream, and then sort of different genres sort of struggle quite a bit, just because we're in such a small country.
Yeah.
But I mean, you go around and you always meet a band here and there. But I don't know. It's definitely not as big of a scene as it used to be.
Gotcha. Are the fans still supportive? Like, do you see a supportive base, or do you have to travel out to the big, like in Hamilton, do you have a supportive base, or do you have to travel to like the bigger cities?
At the moment, it's kind of bumping into random people who we had no idea knew who we were, let alone liked our music. But we do have a bunch of chunks of people around us, and in the bigger cities closer to us that listen to our stuff at the moment. But yeah,
I suppose it's almost an advantage in a way living in a smaller city, because everyone sort of knows everyone. So, the word of mouth gets around pretty fast.
And that's always a good thing. Like starting small, and then somebody knows somebody somewhere else, and
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how we've been approaching it, and just sort of getting more people, coming along to shows and just trying to get involved, really.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just kind of scrolling through your Facebook before I jumped on here, and what's the festival one that you guys played back in January? It looks like.
So basically, that's like a local music festival,
Okay.
and I'd say that's probably the only one we get in Hamilton, right?
Yeah, it's probably the bigger festival in Hamilton.
Yeah. So it's about 8,000?
Yeah, about 8 to 10,000 people.
8 to 10,000 people at this music festival in our city.
That's still a pretty good sized festival, though. That's
It definitely felt good to be playing somewhere where, regardless of people knowing us or not, could still draw a crowd. Like just being there was, it's quite awesome. It's good.
Was awesome.
Awesome. Perfect. What's your creative process like when you guys sit down to write music?
I think it's just like whatever comes to us.
Yeah.
And
it's sort of someone will approach, the group with an idea and it'll sort of develop from there.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of for us, every song's sort of been a different adventure.
Yeah.
Like, someone might come with sort of most of the song fleshed out and they've got a clear image of where they want it to go, and sort of
direction sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And then other times, we'll just start jamming and then something will happen and then, just try work on what happened. And
I think the cool thing is just the fact that we all have like a big respect for each other's musician talents and being able to kind of go, yeah, we'll add that. Nah, don't add that. We want this. And it's kind of like at the end of the day, we all kind of put our best foot forward and we want to improve each other and refine what we do to make our sound the best sound we want. So when it comes to writing it, you could bring a song and go, hey, I have these chords and things. And then somebody will take it away, work on it for a week and go, hey, I've done this to it. And then you go, wow, that's completely different to what I thought, but that's so much better than what I could think of. So it's really cool to have all these different ideas and aspects thrown into one area and everyone's able to kind of like, it's all liquid. Nothing's in solid. We're actually able to kind of like play around with it and balance it out. And everyone's wary of going, yeah, I'm not going to be able to step on anyone's toes because no one really cares. Everyone just wants the best out of it,
So there's not like a one singular one person that writes all the songs. It's just a very collaborative effort. And
100%. The songs that are out currently was before we got a couple other members on board. But we're currently working on a new album, which will be hopefully coming out the next couple months. And that's sort of been more of the process we've been talking about.
Gotcha. Is this the first album as Retro Valley or?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So at the moment we've got 2 singles out on all media platforms, Spotify, iTunes, and all that.
Gotcha.
And then first album coming soon.
What's the experience been like making this album?
It's been really good. I mean, we've currently just been doing it through home studios and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, which has been awesome, but sort of, again, just the same process, really.
Yeah. It can be different every time. Like, there have been times where someone would just start playing something and then we all kind of just jump in and make something happen, and then something can happen that way. Or it can be in the other ways, like Ethan said before. We'll kind of take it piece by piece and everyone will build on it.
Right. And how close are you to having the album done?
We've definitely got set in stone all the songs we want on it.
Okay.
But pretty much all the songs are demoed, so we've done most of the pre-pro. It's just about a matter of just finishing up the last couple things over the last month or so, and then head back into the studio and hopefully smash it all out.
Cool. And you just kind of hinted towards my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you guys did you write specifically for this album, or did you just write songs and decide, oh, hey, this looks like it'd be a good 10 songs for an album?
Yeah, kind of. We had about sort of probably 10 to 20 ideas just floating around, and then sort of just continuing sort of never-ending circles. So we're kind of like, we sort of tried to get it down to a set few so we could actually sort of get a release date and get stuff happening a bit more.
Awesome. And have any of you guys, is this the first band for all of you, or have you all been in bands previously, or what's kind of your musical history?
For me, I'm the drummer, so I came from a hardcore. I was in a hardcore band previously.
Okay.
Very different sort of genre, but it's been really cool, sort of jumping back and forth. There was a hardcore band called Restals.
But yeah, no, I came pretty much similar sort of backgrounds to Mitch. I came from a grunge band, and we pretty much just screamed into mics and played our instruments horribly, and it was heaps of fun.
As for me though, this is my first band. I mean, I've done performances here and there through my parents and whatnot, but this is my first proper band. Yeah.
Gotcha. And how does the Retro Valley differ for the two that were in bands previously? How does Retro Valley differ? As far as like stylistically and all that stuff.
Sort of Retro Valley sounds sort of very much more indie rock. Alternative rock, sort of a lot softer, so no screaming or anything like that. Just pretty much the complete contrast to what we were doing. Still
rock, but a very different style of rock, pretty much.
Like beach rock kind of. Yeah. Like it's just like, I'd say you could just like crack open a beer and sit on the beach, listen to that, and the sun's going down, and that's kind of the vibe we're after, I'd say. Kind of just like a nice, relaxing, chill. Yeah. But still got rock aspects with a bit of punk, because, you can't just be sitting there with your candles out in the audience doing, the whole hand movement thing. I want to kind of like jump around and have a fun time as well. So it's fun to be able to kind of like jump between the two of like the more softer, rocky, nicer sounds, but then also going into like the more, give it a bit more pump, a bit more pace and speed.
Lots of contrast.
Yeah, lots of contrast, which is cool.
I think for me, in the heavier bands, I just got over sort of playing just heavy, loud. The music's sort of a lot more like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And sort of the stuff I've been playing more now is sort of a lot more fluent, and you can sort of groove a little bit more, which has been cool.
Yeah.
More of a better ways of telling a story and expressing feelings and experiences as well that way.
How's the tour? How is it to tour in New Zealand? Is it something that you guys could do easily, like if you wanted to jump from town to town, or is it a little bit harder, not knowing like how everything's set up in New Zealand?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty much every town's sort of got smallish to medium-sized venues, scattered around. The pub scene around New Zealand's pretty good too, though. A lot of pubs all around New Zealand are happy to bring in original bands and sort of run events around.
Nice. And there's no like political issues that would prevent bands from jumping, like if they needed to go like to Australia or something. Is there any like political issues that would prevent you from doing that, or?
No, it's actually, we're pretty good because you can actually go with New Zealand citizenship. You can go straight over to Aussie.
Okay.
Makes it pretty easy. So that's sort of our plan eventually, I think, is to try to head over there.
Okay. And y'all are all of you are born and raised in New Zealand?
Yeah. All from New Zealand.
Cool. And how do your parents feel about the musical endeavors? Obviously, a lot of you got introduced through your parents, but is this something that they wanted for you, or?
I think they enjoy me following what I enjoy doing, but it doesn't pay as much bills as they would hope, I'd say.
Yeah. Is everybody full-time musicians, or do you guys have jobs to support the?
We're all working at the moment.
Yeah. I work in a laundry to support this cause, man.
Then I'm just teaching drums, and then being the vocalist is Mr. IT man.
IT.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we really like to do at Live and Amplified is we're really trying to help cultivate the next generation of musicians.
That's cool.
So we want to like help give them advice and stuff of that nature. So I want to take the next few minutes, few questions, however long we go into this, not side tangent, but this part of the interview. What advice do you guys have for younger musicians?
do it. Just do it, man. Just grab your instrument and just do it. And if everyone says no, just tell them, cool, that's your standards and ideals, and I'm just going to do it. And you can do it too. People who say, oh, they've got a rhythmic bone in my body, or I don't think I could do that. It's like, nah, just make it work. I had to work flipping hard to get that ear for music. I had to work flipping hard to get where I am today. And all it takes is work and just time. Just spend time on it and just push yourself to do the best you can be. Don't compare yourself to anyone, because that's going to ruin you. But because I did that for a long time, going, oh, that guitarist is better than me. Oh, da, 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 da. And it just makes you just not want to play the same, because you just know the amount of time they've taken to get to that point. And it's just like, for me, now it's really just put the time in, love your instrument, love what you're doing, because life's all about enjoyment and experiences, and making a sound out of something with a bunch of people is so much bigger than you could ever be. And I think it's so worth getting into.
Absolutely. And like with young kids these days as well, being indecisive about what they want to do, but know, like, about wanting to start, but know it's what they want to do. You miss every shot you don't take. So take it as you can, like just do your best and do it now.
Yep. That is very good advice. What's the best piece of advice you guys have ever received as musicians?
Anything from Dave Grohl, probably. As soon as that man opens his mouth, it's inspiring.
I'd back that up. Dave Grohl's a pretty smart man.
Just practice. Sort of. Yeah.
And just, I guess, not worry about what anyone else is thinking about it, because, you might be thinking, oh, someone might think this is no good, but, no one's opinion really matters, because you could be affecting a whole bunch of different people in a more positive way,
Yeah, you got to, for me, you got to do it for you, sort of thing.
Nice. And then what's one piece of advice that you've picked up now, or that now, that you wish you would have known when you got started playing music?
No matter what you do, not everyone's going to like it.
It's fun when you start. So much fun when you start. Oh my God.
Awesome. So what's the future goal? Like, I mean, we've kind of talked about this, and you guys want to go stretch out to other countries and whatnot. What would it take to consider your musical career a success? Like, when you get ready to hang it up, what's that one thing that you feel like that it would take to consider your music career a success?
I can feed myself the money I make, and I can pay my bills. That's all. I don't need a flash car. I don't really care. I just want a nice guitar.
I don't know. Probably touring with a band that I look up to.
That'd be wicked.
I don't know. Well, but I suppose for me, it's like there's never an end goal. Well, there is an end goal, but like
at the same time,
it's never ending. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to cut myself short and feel like I didn't succeed if I didn't, because I would have had fun during the whole thing regardless. But I guess it would make me feel pretty successful knowing that I've had a schedule of, festivals and gigs to play, and, playing for people that we look up to.
Yeah.
So that would be great.
So that's what's different about this band for me compared to other ones I've been in. Like, other bands were more sort of focused on, we have to get to this level, and we've got to play to this many, we've got to have this many views, and we've got to do this, this, and this. I think, but for us this time, we've just really tried to just enjoy the music, and then from that, sort of been a lot just more enjoyable and easier to sort of get to happen, because I think the audience sort of sees.
I think it's just allowing flow with your music and your character and everything about you and what you represent in your band. Just having that flyway of just natural,
Yeah. If you don't believe it, no one will.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. And you guys said that you all met in high school, correct? before you
Yes,
came to get? Yep.
Yeah, so half of us went to the local Hamilton Boys High School.
Okay.
Yeah, so we sort of all had our own groups. We sort of knew of each other, hung out here and there. Apart from me and David sort of clicked mostly after high school. And then we sort of just met the others through, because as I said before, it's quite a small town, so sort of everyone knows everyone. And yeah.
Cool. How's, like, I know you've only been together like 6 months or so, but how, even within those 6 months, or 6 months, 9 months, however long, how's the music kind of evolved from when you first started to now?
Ooh.
Definitely a lot more energy, because I think originally there was only sort of 3 of us, so there was only, and we were sort of writing through the computer. But now it was sort of a lot more slower songs and stuff like that. I think once we've got everyone jumped on board now and writing a bit more live as a band, it's sort of a lot more, faster tempo, a bit more energy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely branching out and bringing inspirations mixed in with what we're doing as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what's been the biggest challenge as a band that you've had to overcome?
Time management.
Yeah. Absolutely. All of our schedules are different, eh?
Wait, challenges? Trying to get into Festival 1, because apparently we weren't on the list.
Like standing in a sweaty, hot tent, middle of summer, trying to get these people to remember that we're supposed to be clean. Like, oh yeah,
That's right, come right through. Yeah, good. We believe you now.
How for one thing I want to kind of explore a little bit is how have you been able to keep the band together? Like, being an independent band, not making very much money, how have you been able to prevent the band from falling apart?
I think it's just been mates.
Yeah. I think we all just love it, eh? Like, we all, like, all of us sort of hang out with each other anyway.
Yeah.
And we're all sort of...
So it was, you were friends before it started, and so it was just friends going into a...
Yeah,
cool.
pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. And then what's one place or city, venue, whatever, however you want to interpret this question, what's one place that you want to play? Like, what's a bucket list item as far as a place to play?
I don't know if it'll happen, but Wembley Stadium would be pretty cool.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Spark Arena.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to play in places that I guess aren't overly huge, but places that big people play. Like, I don't know, Madison Square Garden or something. It's not overly massive, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's big, but it's not as big as people think it is, I guess.
Yeah. I'd like to play even maybe the O2 or something, like in London or something. That'd be quite cool.
Yes. Have any of you guys been to London, or is that another easy trip to make? Can you make that in with your New Zealand citizenship, or?
Nah, London's the other side.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's definitely a massive industry over there. But yeah, it's quite hard to sort of get in there. Quite hard for longer than 3 months anyway.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be bursts of festivals and dates, and then we'd have to come home for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sure we can make it work.
Yeah. That's the plan, hopefully, in the next sort of few years.
Yeah.
I'd say.
And that's as far as the home studio goes, is that like your own setup, or are you guys using friends? Is it like a friend setup that you're using to record your music?
So we've just been using my one just at my house. Yeah, so that's just a small interface, and then just running Logic. Yeah, that's about it.
Cushions on the walls.
Yeah.
Hey, it's very DIY. Like, I mean,
our pop shield for our mics, just an old stocking wrapped around a coat hanger.
I've seen it done before. It works.
Yeah.
But you guys are like recording all your music in the same place. It's just okay. Because that's the one thing that always concerns me about the doing it in home studios is they'll record, or I've heard of bands that'll record like 2 or 3 songs in one person's home studio, and then they'll do 2 or 3 more in another person's home studio, and then they bring them together and you can hear the distinct differences because of the reverberation in the room or so that's kind of why I was asking, because there's a lot of technical things that people don't take into consideration when doing a DIY studio like that.
Oh no, yeah, definitely. So I think all of us are sort of, being brought up around music and stuff. We've sort of, between us all, we've sort of got a somewhat of an understanding of audio.
Is there one person that has does the engineering aspect, or is it all of you just kind of learning together?
I'd say majority is Mitch for sure.
Producer Mitch.
Yeah, he's got a wonderful ear and brain.
Nice. And for people that have never seen you perform live, what's your shows like? What can people expect at your live shows?
A lot of randomness, I reckon.
Yeah, just a good old dance.
Yeah.
We don't really have a set way of doing things.
Yeah.
I guess we kind of just go with it, and I'd say we're pretty weird.
Yeah.
I think it's just like we couldn't care less about, or we do care about the audience being there, but I think it's like not caring what they think, and we just kind of allow the music to just be the point of it, Yeah. We just let the music run through you. The energy is good, man. Just let it go. Just have a good time and have fun, and then the audience is going to see that and reciprocate it, right? Mm-hmm. And then, I just find that energy within your group of people you're with, and let the music do its thing, and then that's what it is.
Nice. Obviously the internet plays a huge role in the music industry today, because obviously the internet's making it possible for us to have this interview right now. So Ed, we met randomly on Facebook. It's crazy. How do you see, from your standpoint, how do you see the internet help evolving the music business moving forward? What do you guys?
I think it's a massive advantage, especially in a small country. Sort of 50 or a couple hundred years ago, the only way to hear music was in front of the musician.
Mm-hmm.
Even just distribution of, especially for us, we can sort of pump our music in other countries. That alone's just sort of crazy.
Yeah.
And since you guys have some songs on Spotify, I saw, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's one place, when you kind of go look at the analytics, where's one country that people are listening to your music that's kind of like, oh, hey, we have fans in Southeast Asia or something like that?
Yeah. Well, crazily enough, we've had a lot of people listen to our stuff from places like Slovakia and even Saudi Arabia. I think we've had a few hits.
Whoa.
Which is I didn't think anyone would even want to click on our stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to be honest.
I guess it's mostly been the US and New Zealand lately there.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you guys have aspirations of coming doing a US tour of some sort?
Absolutely.
That'd be the dream, man.
I guess because I've lived in the US my entire life. This may sound like a stupid question, but what's the appeal, I guess, is because to me, I see a lot of hungry musicians in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, and all these other countries. You got all these musicians that are hungry, ready, and they're just doing anything they can to make sure their dream stays alive. And we have that in the US as well, but we also have a lot of complacent musicians that are just kind of like, oh, I deserve this, or, oh, I'm not going anywhere other than here. like, what's your take on that? Like, that was kind of a very, very open-ended question, but I'm kind of curious what the take is.
So you want to know why, what we think about the hungry ones versus the ones that feel entitled?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, well, I guess the initial question was, and it's a stupid question because what's the appeal of the U.S.? Not, yeah. I'll just sit back.
Probably population, really.
I think just the market over there is good. That's like where you get a lot of our top charts over here are mainly from the States anyway. So for us, we just look at that and go, well, there's a big market over there. There's a big for music, and that's where a lot of the music's coming from. Like, you get a lot of music coming out of like New Zealand, Aussie, and UK as well, but it just seems to be pointed in that direction from where our standpoint is, and I guess from around the world, it's just like, oh yeah, that's where the market is. Go over there and do your thing.
I think it's also like, praised for musicians from countries like New Zealand, that it's like, if you're having gigs in places like the US, then like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Most,
Yeah. So like just the appeal to the home audience in New Zealand kind of speaks more, or if you have a tour in the US, it speaks volumes in New Zealand. Is that?
Yeah. Pretty much, if a band tours through the US, you've somewhat made it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
To you.
what's that?
Probably seems silly to you.
No, I mean, I totally get the appeal, but it's just, to me, I'm driven by other motivated people.
Yeah.
And just like from the people that I've talked to in the UK, in Australia, in New Zealand, it just seems like there's a lot more motivated people there that are willing to come to the US just to try and make their dream live on a little bit longer, whereas like some musicians here, they're not even willing to drive across or 2 hours across the state to go make a show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. It is quite weird. I mean, I suppose.
And I mean,
and you want it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not willing to drive.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not trying to put every U.S. musician in that kind of bag, because I know plenty of musicians. Like, I just interviewed one today. She was 18, graduated high school, and hit the road for 6 months before she came back and said, okay, I went on a tour this summer. What'd you guys do? She just hit the road, no money, like no real plan. And it's like, see, you want your career. Yeah. And then I was talking to a guy like a month or so ago, and I told him, like, you're 19, you have very little responsibility, you have no bills. The worst you have is a car payment or car insurance and a phone bill. That's minimal compared to what a lot of people have. Yeah. Go out there and play. Like, it's not hard. And he gave me every excuse in the book. And it's like, okay, you don't want it bad enough.
I suppose overseas musicians coming to the US, I mean, like, they've already given up everything to get there.
Mm-hmm.
They're wanting to give everything to keep going. But maybe ones that are already in the US, they've got a lot around them, so that they don't want to do things because they may lose what they have.
Yeah, that's true. Who are some musicians in New Zealand that are like starting to make some noise and people should be aware of, besides yourselves? Because obviously you guys are making some noise yourself because you caught my attention. But who are some other musicians that you guys are kind of have your eye on as potential people that could make some noise in the future?
Yeah, so sort of the biggest band in New Zealand at the moment is probably 660.
Yeah.
They're doing their thing, but there's a lot of some awesome bands that I reckon are going to blow up. There's you can see Cloak Bay, another one, Messiah, yes. Van Grove.
There's Hate, actually.
Yeah. There's a lot of talent in New Zealand, and it's hard to say
There's one girl who's broken through, and she's kind of just starting to get quite popular. Her name's Benny, like Benee.
Okay.
She's had quite a few hits, and she's just started going international, really. She's great. I got to fist bump her the other weekend, actually. That was kind of cool. Just to, flex on you. But
Nice.
Yeah, that was quite cool. Yeah, but she's great. Yeah, I'll say look out for her because she's probably the next Billie Eilish.
She's pretty good.
Nice. What's the craziest thing to ever happen to you guys at a show? Do you guys have any crazy show stories or?
I guess one of the things that I thought was pretty hilariously awesome was that we probably just had our first gig on a Saturday night, and it was kind of just at like this little venue at a house, really.
Yeah.
And,
House party show.
Yeah. So it was very underground sort of like gig, and we kind of had that, and then the next day we did a couple of songs for a competition, and there was this girl that came up to us after the show, asking for some photos and stuff and wanting to know more about the band. And it was our first gig, so we're kind of just like, oh yeah, we're this person, but it's whatever. And she was like, when's your next gig? And we're like, oh yeah, it's in a few weeks at this place just in town. So that's kind of it. And in a few weeks' time, kind of expected them to forget about it, but we show up for sound check, and she's right up the front on the couch at the venue waiting. She's by herself. And we're, oh, hello. G'day. So that felt kind of cool, having someone, following us from the very first go.
Nice. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, worst one was probably that when we were playing at the festival, a big power surge went through the sound system and the whole sound system just shut down.
Yeah, that was interesting, having to improvise with that.
We just kept playing. It was like, oh, this is done. Well, I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah. It was kind of mainly like all the mics cut off. And and it would always be, as it was coming up to the big triumphant chorus, it would be like cut out, and then it'd just be the music, and then but it was quite cool. Some of the people during one of the songs, when it cut out, started singing the chorus back to us, which was a pretty good feeling, to be honest.
That's right. That was cool.
That was quite cool.
Nice. What's your favorite song to perform live?
Probably Freddie Funk.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Our latest single, Freddie Funk's probably the most fun to play.
What is it about that song?
Probably the highest energy song, probably. It's a good one to get a good old boogie.
And it's because the song's mainly about just being in a good mood, just being in the zone, when you're just in that state of ecstasy and you're just super happy, you're just that's so that song kind of brings all that as well.
Yeah. Another thing I really want to try and shine some light on, and not to bring the energy of the podcast down, but lately, over the last few years, mental health has become a huge concern and issue, especially me looking at the music industry and how many people we've lost to accidental drug overdoses or suicide or stuff of that nature. How important is mental health to you guys as a band or individually?
I think huge, because in New Zealand, I think we've actually got the highest suicide rate per capita. So I think, especially in the last 5-10 years, the culture in New Zealand's changed a lot, especially in males. And I think for all of us, we're all very supportive of each other.
Yeah, lots of love.
Yeah, lots of love. Very open about shit.
You said that New Zealand has the highest suicide rate amongst males? Is that?
Yeah,
in the world.
I think in the world even. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I really want to try and just let people know, like, hey, everything's going to be all right. You don't need to do something that's going to permanently damage somebody else's life because you were in a funk. So what do you got? Sorry about that. What do you guys do? How do you guys help each other stay mentally stable, and how important is it that you guys just kind of keep an open and clear communication if you guys aren't having a good day or something?
It's got to be straight up. You just,
I guess it's trusting that we can all say what we feel and what we're feeling at the time, and to know that everyone's going to be supportive about it. Yeah.
I think once like people that are struggling, I think a big thing is it's like everyone goes through stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of,
And it's breaking the barrier of being able to reach out, because if you don't talk about it,
Yeah.
no one, there's the chance that no one will approach you about it, you know?
Gotcha. And does it help that you guys have been friends for so long? Does it helps kind of just having that open conversation whenever somebody's having a bad day?
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's pretty obvious to see if somebody was off, but I think genuinely all of us are pretty happy dudes. Like, I don't know.
And just like I'd trust these guys with, like, you know, telling them about something shocking that's happened, you know, and it's got me down, and it's never going to backlash because everyone's just so
Open.
supportive and open.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No point bottling things up. What a waste of time that is. That's only going to make you more upset at the other end. It's a choice to talk. It's a choice to actually decide how you want to feel, and it's a choice to get somebody involved in that and work with you through it, you know.
Mm-hmm. And it's just really important. I just want to thank you guys for taking that minute, because it's something that's become really important to me. And like, because we've, even through Live and Amplified, some bands and friends of bands have done some things that have kind of hurt some relationships or have taken their own lives. And so it's just something that's become very important to me as I've kind of gone through this journey of working with bands and finding out how serious of an issue, like even drug addiction and overdosing, because they didn't have a way to cope with their feelings, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely.
That's cool, man.
No worries.
But, so to bring up the energy a little bit, I'm going to ask some kind of random questions,
Yeah, shoot it, bro.
What does anybody have any like weird or useless talents?
Ben's got a few.
I
can click my jaw.
I'm just a useless person in general. But
Wow.
Sorry, bringing it back down again. I can fold my ear like origami and make it stay like that.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Like,
what? He's doing it for us now. Yeah.
So basically, I can fold my ear maybe like 3 times and then tuck it into itself, and it'll stay like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost okay. I can almost get it there. Okay, we're going off track.
No, you were perfectly right on track.
Say, cool ass.
Where we want to go.
I want to fold my ear.
Anybody else?
I can click my jaw.
Okay.
But it's not really clicking. It's just grinding my jaw against like my skull basically, and it makes a clicking noise, and it's hideous. Don't do it much because it's probably terrible for me, but it's a cool party trick.
I can make more pork noise. That's probably about it.
Wow, that's cool. That's great. I love it.
It's so cool.
But what's the most random question you guys have ever been asked at a show?
I don't know.
Randomest question
at a show. Do you mean during or just?
Or yeah, it could be during, like just while you guys were performing or after the show. Like somebody ever ask you, I don't know.
What about that show in town where those homeless people were yelling shit at
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, was that after Navarre? Was that after?
No, we once had this these people watching us and they're having a good old jam on the methylated spirits.
Oh, right.
And it's probably not.
And they were just yelling, play this, do this, play this, and just yelling random requests.
Yeah.
Nice. What's your guilty pleasure song? Like a song that you listen to, but people would maybe think less of you as a musician because you like it.
Salad Days by Mac DeMarco.
Oh, I don't know. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Just so we're all on an even playing field, mine is "Party in the USA" by Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
But that's a banger, though.
That's a banger. Yeah.
Oh no! What's that song? California by that's
Yeah, California.
California.
Oh.
I can't remember.
Nice.
I don't know. Mine would probably
Go through the list now.
there's so many songs. I mean, I've been really digging the 1975 lately, which a lot of people would have mixed opinions about them. A lot of people think they're geniuses, and a lot of people think they're terrible. I love it all. I love it all, eh? Like, for the people who hate it or not.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
James Blunt.
Oh my god.
Good old
Yes.
James Blunt.
Yeah.
Amazing. What's yeah, all right, we're done. That's about all the random questions I had. I just wanted to see if we could break up the monotony of the standard 1, 2, 3 type situation.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
But what do you want people to? What's one thing you want people to know about the band? Like, yeah, or you as individuals. Like, we could have you answer both questions.
I think for us, we all just want to make music to people to have a good time.
Yeah, have some fun.
Yeah.
Break up the monotony of the day and the week, your regular working week, and then come along to one of our shows.
Yeah.
We'll entertain you.
It's nice getting people to come along and forget about whatever's going on at the time to, like, just come and vibe.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on, whether you've had a good week or a bad week, come along and vibe, Yeah.
Have a drink with us, hang out.
Yeah.
We're not bad guys.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of good dudes.
Yeah.
Come and hang out and listen to us, man.
Yeah, I like getting across stories as well, and like different life situations as well into music, so that I like to get quite specific, so that if someone hears it and is like, oh, didn't know someone else had sort of a similar thing, then it's like that person feels a little less weird about it. Yeah.
Awesome. And you said earlier that you guys have been together for a little while, and you were originally a 3-piece, right? And then you brought in 2 other players.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we almost we didn't sit down and go like, oh, we're going to start a band today. It was sort of just me and David, the guitarist, were just playing, and then we're like, oh, we'll put some vocals over it. Did that with probably a few songs, and we're like, oh, should we actually make this a thing? And then got some people to jump on board.
Yeah. It was quite cool, actually, because like I remember my first jam session coming over with you guys, and the very first thing we jammed became a song that we now play at pretty much every gig.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
Do you have any unique covers that you do? Like you put a unique twist on it, or it's a cover you don't hear a lot of people play?
Not, hey.
The only cover I remember I was playing was the Fall Out Boy one.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
We're more focused on originals, but we've got. Yeah.
We like to dabble into some covers now and again.
Okay.
They're usually the more mainstream ones, I guess. I guess it would be cool to bring in things that people wouldn't usually hear bands play.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That's a good idea, yeah.
And I know a lot of bands bring in covers, like they'll just bring in a random cover to kind of break up the set and whatnot, so they're not playing the same song. Like, especially if they have a smaller catalog of music, they bring in the covers to kind of break up the set a little bit. So, yeah. And speaking of what, how do you guys break up your set to make it different so you're not playing the same music over, or do you guys not play frequently enough for that to become an issue?
I think we've stepped back from shows for the next few months just to focus on writing.
Okay.
We're quite a lot over our New Zealand summer, so December, January. I think we play with quite a mix of different bands.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was sort of, depending on who we're playing with, we'd pick softer songs, and sort of the more heavier bands would sort of pick more upbeat, faster songs. Yeah. Well, we've got somewhat of a biggest repertoire there, so
we definitely we usually adapt to whatever the situation is at the time.
Gotcha.
Always got something up our sleeve. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer because I value everybody's time, and I want to thank you guys for giving me the time to sit down and chat with you. It's been a blast. It's been one of the more exciting interviews that I've done.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, bro.
So it's definitely been exciting. It's been different. It's been awesome, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to ask you guys another question. It's going to be a rather vague question, and I'm wording it this way specifically to let you guys kind of take it where you want it and just kind of have fun with the question. But why music?
Why music? I think for me it was just sort of the only thing, I always played sports and stuff, never got into games or anything. But music, I don't know, it's just, I listen to it, I play it, it just gives me that weird feeling.
That feeling, it's just that feeling.
I think that's that feeling that every musician chases. It's just that buzz when you get into that moment. If you're playing a song and you improvise a little thing and you go, whoa, that's what it's all about.
I think after a little bit for me as well, after jamming with the guys and just playing, whether it be in front of people or not, just seeing how it makes everyone else in the band feel as well. It's kind of like, I'll be like, I feel like I'm on top of the world right now. And then I'll kind of look around and everyone's just like in the zone, loving it. Just like nothing makes me feel the way music does.
Yeah. Back them completely on that. Far out. I'm just playing with them and then just go into a little lead break or something. Just come out of it and I just get shivers all down my back. I just love it. I know. It's worse than a heroin addiction, to be quite honest with me. I am so friggin' obsessed with it. I can't get enough of it. So that's why music, because it's me. It's my obsession. I like it.
Yeah. I like it.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. And you guys said you're kind of taking a step back from shows for while you're working on this album.
Yeah. So we have a couple of things lined up for just after we release it.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll definitely start pumping out dates after that.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Hopefully at the end of this year.
That'd be wicked.
That'd be good.
Do you have a release date yet in mind for the album?
Not yet, but we're hoping before May.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just made a decision now.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I think that's a good month.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, that's where can everybody find you on social media if they want to check out your shows and what have you, or listen to your music?
So we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, and it's all at Retro Valley Band.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the name for all of our social media, and on all music platforms, just Retro Valley.
Okay. And one final question for you: how did you guys how'd you come up with the name Retro Valley?
I just asked this the other day.
So for ages we didn't actually have a name because we weren't really a band. But then we went to go release our single, and we're like, oh, we need a band. So we thought of a name that I can't remember what it was.
It was a French word.
It was a French word, but it sounded too much like Ratatouille. So whenever we went to go play shows, everyone was like, "You're that Ratatouille band."
Yeah.
So eventually we just decided that Retro Valley fitted us well, and it was somewhat similar to what we already had.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What were some other names that you were considering for the band?
A few of them,
Yeah, I think when we when we started off with the name, it was a French word. It was called, the pronunciation was retrouvaille, which is basically like the feeling you get when you see someone again that you used to love or something. Something like that. But yeah, like Mitch said, it was too confusing. The way it's spelled looks like ratatouille. And we wanted something that was, snappy, memorable, but we also liked the sound of retro at the start from Retrouvaille. And it just spun off into Retro Valley, which we all thought had a nice ring to it.
It was going to be retro bass.
Yeah.
But then we all figured that if we put that on a poster, people would think we're selling a retro bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. But that's pretty much all we had for you. I want to thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to sit down and chat with you. I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. I hope you guys had a good time.
It's great, man. Thank you for having us.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah,
absolutely. And definitely New Zealand has been we're kind of looking to expand out beyond the US, and
that's cool, man.
The UK, New Zealand, and Australia are like the top 3 places that we want to expand out to.
Well, hit us up, friend.
Anytime, man.
Awesome. And but yeah, other than that, I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we will see you guys later.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.
Yep.